Hey everybody, Jerry Miculek here, and I know what you're thinking. The competition season has been pushed way back. A lot of matches have been canceled, but I got a bright moment to share with you anyway, and I'm kind of excited about this. I've got the new Vortex Razor HD Gen 3 telescopic sight. It's a 1x10 by 24 with a first focal plane reticle, guys. It also has an MOA reticle. So, has the hash marks for carryover at any power setting. Give you an idea what comes in the box. Of course, you got a 34 millimeter scope, and it's a 1x10 power. It has a setting here you can light up the reticle in the middle, and it gets super bright too. What they've done on this one, when you bring it down to 1 power and you light it up, there's no lighting condition that you can't see the center of the reticle, so that's kind of neat. And this one's in MOA, which I'm accustomed to. So what I want to do is upgrade my equipment, and I'm gonna bring 2 rifles to a competition now, or 2 upper assemblies. So what I have here in my original competition gun, of course, is the 1x6 Razor with shoot open division, so I can have more than one optic. And I have the Razor red dot on the side. It's a 1x6. I love this scope, but there's some matches you go to, especially out west, where the distances are a little further and the targets get a little smaller, where you might want to have a little bit more intel, and the reticle has a little bit more features so you can use it wisely in that setting. So I'm going to fix up an upper here to bring with me, and it's going to have the 1x10 on it. So what I'm going to do is kind of give you a walkthrough on how I set up my equipment. And here's the, I'm going to try to read this to you. It's a precision extended cantilever mount with a 20 MOA cant. So there's no position that you go, or range you can go to where you're not going to have enough elevation to make the shot. So one thing you want to do, guys, when you install a scope is have the right equipment. Break down and buy you a little torque wrench. This is a Vortex product. There's a lot of them out there. When I was at the Vortex factory earlier this year, when I had a chance to go to the service department, and one of the biggest things that they get back as a manufacturer is scopes that are destroyed by people over torquing the rings. And you wouldn't think that it would be a problem, but people get on there and they think it's a 3/4 ton pickup, and you need 88 foot-pounds of torque, and it doesn't work that way, guys. So just read the intel on the product. It tells you how many inch-pounds to set the rings in the base, and get you one of these little torque wrenches. It's been a lifesaver for me. So just wanted to share that with you. So I've got the cantilever mount, and what I'm going to do on this gun, I'm going to put an optic in the rear. So I'm going to leave 2 grooves here on the Picatinny rail open, so I can put a red dot on it if I choose to. So I'm just going to go ahead and mount it up, loosen the base up and get it on there. And I can be honest with you guys, you can't have too many guns or scopes. It's just a part of the deal of being a competitor. Can't have too much. These have a Torx system on them, which is really cool. The Allen head stuff I never did like too much, because you have a tendency to strip them. And this you'll never do that. I'm just going to go ahead and tighten it up just a little bit. Another thing that I like to do on my guns, when I set the optics up, if there's any play in the Picatinny rail, I always want to push it forward, because when the gun recoils to the rear, it recoils on the front of that lug. So I'm going to push it forward just a little bit till it touches, and start to just bring it in a little bit to where I can get it going here. So remember, read the inch-pound setting. On the base, a max is 33 inch-pound, and on the rings is 18 max. And if you put any kind of a thread sealant on this, you go to 11 inch-pounds. That's how much that sealant or Loctite or can add to the torque setting. So another thing I'm going to do, because I'm an old mechanic and we worked on a lot of gearboxes and a lot of assemblies, I'm just going to mark these rings in case I get stupid and something was to fall over. I don't want to get them mixed up. I know they're precision made and I want to keep them that way. So I'm going to do that. So when you finish mounting, all you need to do is get your little brake cleaner, and you can take it right off. I'm a witness mark guy. Everything on my competition guns are going to be witness marked when I'm finished. I'm going to take that same marker after I get it all torqued down and mark every screw, so when I get on the line and I'm looking at my equipment, I'm not going to have to worry about, hey, did something come loose? I want other things to think about, like getting to the finish line. Not worried about all that other stuff. All right. So there we have it. Got the rings off. What else comes in the box, guys? Of course, you have your stick shift. And usually what I do is put it right in the center. So it's a 1x10. I want it straight up and down. And it happens to fall on about 3 power. So even if I'm in a match and I'm not having the brightest moment of the day, I can still engage just about any target from 1 to 3. And if you need to change it, you can of course reach it up there and put it to 10, or swipe it down and bring it to 1 power. And what's really tricky about this scope, as compared to the 1x6, believe it or not, the field of view is almost exactly the same. 116 foot field of view at 100 yards. Huge field of view on 1 power, and you can shoot it just like a red dot. Put the reticle up on a bright setting and you can shoot it just like a red dot, or you can whip it out to 10 power and use the ranging reticle, make shots out to whatever you want, 1,000 yards or whatever. So, okay, from past experiences, I know pretty much that my eye relief is going to be pretty much right at the back of the charge handle. If you look at my other guns, that's pretty much where they fall. That's the way I mount the stock. And what you want to do when you go to set your scope on your rifle is to use some different positions to get this eye relief, because in competition you're not only going to be standing shooting, you're going to be in different positions around walls, under tables, prone. So I know from past experience, if I put the back of the scope pretty much on a charge handle, it fits the criteria of all the applications that I can think of to use that scope. So I'm going to leave it just about there. And one thing you want to do when you do this assembly like this is to keep everything square. So what I did earlier, this little Hoppy's vise, if I was to do this on my own, I would be on my workbench where I have a steel vise and I would clamp it really secure. This is the best I can come up with to show you here on a table. It's their Hoppy's gun cleaning vise. You can screw it down really tight on the front. Even if you have to mount a rag around the front of the gun to give it some slip, the way you can pivot it. And the big thing is you want to make it flat. So I've got a bubble level here, and what I'm trying to do is to get this thing in between the lines as close as I can. It doesn't have to be exact, but you're going to bring that same setting of the bubble to the ring, to the base. This base is going to be machined pretty much square. So the top of the setting here on top of the cantilever, matter of fact, is just about perfect. So you're at this point and you see that the top of your Picatinny rail here is about exactly between the lines, and you bring it up here to the top of your scope base and it's not, you might not have this correctly seated all the way down. So go ahead and loosen your screws back and make sure it's seated right, and it should be exactly the same. These things are precision made on CNC equipment, and it's going to be right, guys. So there you have it. Everything's pretty good. It's between the lines. So what I'm going to do is put the scope here. I'm going to put that same eye relief that I use, and I think it's going to be about right there where I want it. So the whole idea of making this thing level is when you go to mount your scope, you have a platform to put your level back on. So we're just going to bring it back in between the lines again. And that's why you want something that's going to secure the rifle, so when you play with it a little bit back and forth, you're not going to tip it out of level. So we're about right in the middle. You want to make sure you have your cap down all the way on the gasket so it's flat and it's in its seated position. Other than that, you're ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and start the remount here. Attach the rings back. My little witness marks, that's old school, but it's part of being a mechanic, so what can I say? When you take down a gearbox that has a 1,000 horsepower motor on it, there's a lot of pieces and parts in the box when you go to put it back together. So anyway, old school sometimes works. So what I'm going to do here when I mount these rings back, I want to have the same spacing on both sides. And you'd be surprised, it doesn't take much torque at all and you can't move that scope. So you can actually feel the differences in the gap there with your finger. And we are staying exactly where we want to. So I'm just going to leave it up there and come here and give it just a little bit. Yep, the same thing in the back here. what you find on these precision rings when you go to tighten them, if you put a little bit of effort in going back and forth like I am, you hardly ever lose your level. It's just quality stuff. So, okay guys, we got it pretty much square. I've got 2 rings with just a little bit of torque on it. I'm going to set this thing to 30, this torque wrench, and just run over the base screws again before I do anything. So we got 30. We'll go ahead and do the base screws. The same thing you want to do here, you want to alternate from one to the other. Just like, well, torquing ahead on an engine if you're a mechanic. So, all right, we got 30 and 30. And of course, we get the last 2 here. And we did all that and we're still 0. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to go back to 18, and this is max on it, so I'm going to go to about 15. You'd be surprised, you don't need a whole lot of torque, and that thing will not ever turn on you. All right, so we got 15 here. Back and forth. I'm just going to get a feel for it back and forth there. See, it slipped already on 15. Right there. Come back on this one. Snug it up about half of about 7.5. Maybe 8, 15. All right. See, it doesn't take much to make 15, guys. See there? You know, this is not a lug wrench. It's not a 3/4 ton pickup. You just got to give it the right amount of love, and it's going to love you back. So don't kill it. All right. One thing the scope comes with in the box, it'll come with the stick shift, and it'll come with the sunshade. That's kind of neat. And it's got this little fancy tool here. You can put your battery in, and you can also adjust your 0 on the turret. So it has a little multi-tool. Kind of like that. It comes with the accessories to make it what you see, a good product. So the sunshade comes in handy. I'll usually bring it to a match. Might not run it all the time, but I will bring it. But the switch, the stick shift, is something you want to have on there for sure. We're going to put the sunshade on it because it looks cool. All right. So we're on there, guys, and that's it. We're all mounted. We're still between the lines, even with all that gun handling. It stayed zeroed in the mount. So, all right. So there we have it. So when we head out to the range, what you want to realize, I'm kind of fortunate here. I can get really close to the target. What I'll usually do is go to a 50-yard line, like on a pistol bay. I'll take the upper assembly off, and I'll look through the bore on sandbags and get it real close to the reticle, and then I'll walk up maybe 5 yards away. And you don't have to shoot match ammunition to do this. You can shoot the cheapest ball or whatever you got to get it in at 50 yards, and then you take it back to 100 and 200. I'm going to sight in at 200. That's the way the reticle is set up for this caliber, and that's the way I've shot competitions for the last 15 years is on a 200-yard 0. So, okay, guys, we're on the back range. I've got my M&P competition rifle, M&P 15 Performance Center rifle. We got the flag out. We empty. We'll go ahead and strip the top off right quick, and this is a new one. One thing Smith & Wesson does with their AR platforms, they have, and on the Performance Center gun, they have these little rubber bumpers here, front and rear on the upper, and when you lock it down with the pins, it makes it sit relatively tight on the bottom receiver. Makes for a good setup there. It's kind of an unknown feature of that rifle, by the way. So we got the charge handle out and bolt out. What I'm going to do is try to center the bore here, like the old cannoneers used to do. They bore-sighted all their cannons. And let's see, just get him in the middle there. Go ahead and pull the caps off. When these scopes come out of the box, by the way, they're optically centered, so the adjustments are right in the middle range on both elevation and windage. And unless you messed with them before you got it on the gun. So, but anyway, let's take a look at what we got here. So we're in the center, and yeah. Get this thing dialed in a little bit where I can see. I tell you what, even a blind hog finds that acorn once in a while. I tell you what, we're pretty real close. I'm not even going to touch it till I fire a shot. I'm pretty excited about that. Maybe this one's right on the money. All right. Or close anyway, within 5 or 6 clicks, I think, one way or the other. So, what I usually do on something like this, I'll walk down close to the target, but I'm feeling so good right here, I think we're just gonna shoot it. This thing is pretty close. I think I can walk it in without even going down range. What I'm gonna try to do right here is just get a 50-yard zero, a rough zero. So the ammunition, just about any bullet weight is gonna hit really close at 50. It could be a 35 or a 75. And at 50, it'll still get you on the target at 100, and then you can start get weaned in. And I'm gonna do a 200-yard zero eventually with it. So what I have for ammo right here is just some reloads with 55 grain Hornady FMJs on it. And we're gonna go ahead and blast it. I think we're pretty close. Eyes and ears. One thing muzzle brakes on competition guns are extremely loud. I've had double protection pretty much since I started shooting. I'm trying to save my hearing as much as I can, so double plugs. Push them in till they touch, guys, and then put your headset on. And another thing you want to realize when you go to charge these rifles is that you want to have them pointed at the berm when you drop the boat. We had a gentleman one time, we were getting ready to shoot. He dropped his boat. He had his rifle like this, and when he dropped the boat, it raced off. He had it off a safe. But the big thing was he didn't have a hammer pin completely in. So the hammer was floating, and it was just like a machine gun. He shot like 10 rounds over the berm before the gun actually stopped. He didn't stop. But that's why you always want to have it facing toward the berm. If you get a slam fire or you get a malfunction, the berm is going to stop it. All right. Just had to preach to you a little bit. All right, we're clear. Safety on. Magazine in. And let's go ahead and shoot it a little bit. All right. Okay, so we're actually about 2 inches low right there, but the windage seems to be pretty close. So about 2 inches at 50 would be an inch. Let's come up a little bit. All right, let's try. We aim at that bullet hole this time. About an inch low. What am I feeling here? I got it. Let me come up a hair. Rocking on the magazine. Thought I was feeling something there. All right. Now we got it. Now I'm happy. All right. Here we go. Aim at that last bullet hole, the low one. I'll put one in the head box here. Just a dab high. And I think we'll aim at that last hole. And I think we're ready to go out to the 100-yard line, guys. So we're going to clear out. Flag it up, and had to come up about 4 minutes, and the windage is real close. I'm gonna leave that for the 100-yard line. So there you have it, guys. That's how easy it is to get your sight set up and get it roughed in. Some guys actually do a zero at 50. I don't. I'm fortunate enough to live on a range where I can go out to 400 yards. So I like to do my actual sight settings at the yardages that I'm gonna shoot at. So. Okay guys, we got a rough sight in there to kind of give you a reference on the differences between a 1x10 and the 1x6. I brought both of them along here to show you. You notice they're almost exactly the same. I think they're 10.1 inches, both of them, and they both weigh 21 ounces if I'm correct. So this one, the 1x6 is half-minute clicks, half MOAs. On the 1x10, it's a quarter minute. So the Reticle Choices is the big thing here. It's a first focal plane reticle, so the holdover values do not change to the magnification range. It has a lit reticle with a bigger red center than the 1x6. So you have some features there. The big thing for me is I can see better at longer ranges, so I can get more intel, do more precise shooting. So there you have it, guys. No excuse to have not at least a couple of razors on your equipment, so get some.